Thoughts from a Christian College Student, my video blog. I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. We will just jump right into it. Today I'm going to be discussing how I got straight A's in college. Last semester, I got straight A's for the very first time in my entire school career. If you saw my last video, The Power of Effort, I briefly went over that and my experiences with it. Tip number one for how to get straight A's in college is choose a major that you love. Choose a major that you're interested in. You might have heard this before. You might have had people tell you that before you went into college or afterwards, but I know in my personal experience, I didn't truly understand the meaning of that statement until I actually experienced it. Let me give you an example. So I started off as a business major, and I was really passionate about it, at least I thought I was, and I was really fired up from my freshman year to my sophomore year of when I was on track to getting into business school. And I decided to take calculus and financial accounting in the same semester, and my brain got overloaded and I was super frustrated, and in my mind it was just God kind of pushing me onto the right path, because now I am studying to become a communications major and I'm so in love with it. If I wouldn't have had that negative experience on the path to becoming a business major, I may not have ever become a communications major, and I'm in love with it and I haven't been happier. So for you, if you're feeling a little bit stuck, or you might love your major, if that's the track that you're on, just make sure that you are passionate about what you're studying. Moving on to tip number two for how to get straight A's in college is make studying and homework a priority. When I say this, I'm not trying to tell you not to have a life and to lock yourself in your apartment or your dorm and just study every single night for 8 hours a day. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm saying is that you need to make it very important. You need to make studying and homework, you need to put it at the top of your list. So say a friend asks you if you want to go out and get some coffee, if you want to go to a movie, but you know that you have a big exam coming up in a couple of days that you really need to study for and you haven't started studying. Tell your friend no and take the time to study. I promise you, when you're taking that test and you're sitting there and everybody else is confused and doesn't know how to answer the questions, you're going to feel so good when you're just breezing through those questions, knowing exactly what to do because you studied. So make studying a top priority. Moving on to tip number three. This tip goes hand in hand with tip number two. And tip number three is take breaks. In addition to making homework and studying one of your top priorities, you need to give your mind some rest. You need to give your brain a break from all of the intense studying, especially if you're studying difficult subjects. You need to give your mind a rest and take a break and maybe do something else. That could mean going to a movie with some friends. It could mean watching something on Netflix. Just give your mind a break from reading, from doing math problems, whatever it is that you're doing. Give yourself a rest. This is going to be really important into even memorizing things more clearly and more effectively. Just taking breaks overall is going to be really effective. But in order for this to work, you need to do tip number four as well, which we will move on to next. Finally, tip number four is do things in advance. This is probably the most important tip of them all. If nothing else, make sure you do this tip. And even if this is the only tip that you do, pretty much everything else is going to fall into place. All of these tips kind of go hand in hand when you accomplish them simultaneously. Don't procrastinate anymore. Do things ahead of time. This is definitely what was the key factor in getting straight A's last semester for me. So I would study for my exams 2 weeks in advance, sometimes 1 week, depending on the complexity of the exam and the material covered in it. Essays, I would do at least 2 weeks in advance to have time to edit them, to have time to brainstorm, to have time to write it. I would give myself plenty of time to process the information, and ultimately it helped me to actually learn the information, which is the goal of school. You're actually supposed to remember the things that you learn. By studying early, by starting assignments early, you're going to win in every situation. Yes, you might have to sacrifice a little bit of extra time, but in the end, it's going to be completely worth it. So those are my 4 tips to getting straight A's in college. Number 1, choose a major that you're interested in. Number 2, make studying and homework a top priority. Number 3, take breaks. And number 4, the most important one, do things in advance. Do not procrastinate. I urge you guys to try these things out. Let me know how they work for you and see if you can get straight A's.